God exists. On the evening of March 8, 2005, he was seen at Stamford Bridge. Ignoring Roman Abramovich, he rushed straight onto the field where the battle between Chelsea and Barcelona was raging. A battle that was just a game for him. Receiving the ball, he stopped time. The situation looked tough, many opponents and little space. The 1 seconds were spent on a dance and a search for a solution. And then the ball was in the corner of the net. Almost no one understood what happened, and those who did couldn't say anything. Such beauty is indescribable. Divine skill. The name Ronaldinho is written on the back of the creator, a player created by God to teach people to love football. Ronaldinho began to experience the feelings of those who did not believe in miracles from childhood. When the news spread in Brazil about the emergence of another miracle, no one could feel it. The youth team of Grêmio won a game with a score of 23-0. All the goals in the match were scored by one player, a guy who enjoyed the game and couldn't stop. After training at the club academy, he went to the beach to hone his skills in more challenging conditions. On the sand, against older guys. Regularly competing with older opponents, he received a nickname that made him famous worldwide. The diminutive, Ronaldinho, was added to his name, Ronaldo, hinting at his age and size compared to his opponents. By 17, Ronaldinho became the main prospect of a country that lives for football, passionately discussing every talent. However, when Ronnie was born, Brazil savored not only football treats. Suffering from a general's coup, the country was living out a military dictatorship. The consequences of its rule introduced Ronaldinho to the poverty of the favelas. Ronnie's family overcame the tough times in the usual Brazilian way, through football, long before Ronaldinho became a professional. God gives gifts to everyone, he said, receiving the Ballon d'Or. The gift turned out to be circumstances. Born in Porto Alegre, he had two options for his first team. This city in southern Brazil is known for the rivalry between Internacional and Grêmio, one of the hottest derbies in South America. Little Ronnie didn't get to choose. When he was taking his first football steps, his older brother was already knocking on the door of Grêmio's main squad. At the age of 7, Ronaldinho lost his father, so his brother was everything to him, an idol, an example, and a mentor. The family tragedy became a source of motivation. His father promised that his son would play for the Brazil national team. When there were temptations to stray from the path, Ronnie always remembered his father, knowing he couldn't let him down. Diligently following in his brother's footsteps, the younger son turned into the foremost footballer of the family. The reason for the rapid progress was explained by Grêmio's coach, Celso Roth. "I've seen many great talents, but Ronaldinho is head and shoulders above the rest." His father's prophecy came out quickly. Ronaldinho debuted in the national team before he grew his trademark hair. Latvia closely followed his first game in the golden jersey. Against this team's national team, the Brazilians played a friendly match before the start of the Copa America '99. Making an assist, the Grêmio prodigy confirmed that his place in the leading team was no accident.
De novo. Ronaldinho Gaúcho no lançamento, Alex!
Lionel Messi won the Copa America for the first time at 34 years old. Ronaldinho did it at 19. Being the youngest player in the team at his debut major tournament, Ronnie had a reserve status, coming off the bench 4 times. But even a secondary role couldn't hide his magic. The first time he came off the bench was in the 70th minute of the match against Venezuela, and 4 minutes later, he scored a goal that became one of the best in the history of Copa America. Ronaldinho's carefree smile created the image of a genius kissed by God, to whom everything comes easily. In reality, each simple movement was backed by thousands of tireless repetitions. Ronnie revealed the secret of his success in one of his first interviews when he was 17. In any corner of the world, whatever profession you take, it's hard to establish yourself everywhere. There are many technical footballers in Brazil. Talent alone is not enough. You need to work, fight, and never give up. Ronaldinho went from a substitute to a regular in the national team in 2 weeks. Immediately after a triumphant performance in the Copa America, Brazil went to the Confederations Cup. During the transfer, the team's lineup underwent significant changes. Most of the Legionnaires left the national team, giving a chance to players from the national championship. Ronaldinho took advantage of it better than anyone. He scored in all matches except the final, in which Brazil lost to Mexico. Becoming the tournament's best player, the Grêmio prodigy signaled European clubs about the birth of a new star.
Gets it in! Oh! Does he get it in or not?
Having established himself in the main squad of Grêmio, the young Ronnie scored 50 goals in 2 seasons. Impressive statistics, but even it fades against the main trump card, improvisation. The basis of his game was always creativity. On the beach or at Stamford Bridge, he acted the same. You can't win without having fun. The greatest pleasure for Grêmio fans came in another derby against Internacional when their new idol humiliated the opponent's captain with 2 magical feints. The captain was the great Dunga, World Cup champion of '94.
Para Rodrigo, devolução para Ronaldinho, olha o drible dele, cruzou, afasta a zaga, Ronaldinho no campo, tá jogando demais, desequilibrando o programa.
Fans will return to this episode 10 years later when Ronaldinho's career in the national team will take a devastating blow. Ronaldinho is confident. His success in Barcelona was only possible with a transfer to PSG. However, the road to the French capital is shrouded in secrets. The Brazilian could easily have ended up across the English Channel. Arsenal invited him, but problems with documents prevented him from getting a work permit in the UK. The story of the fake passports will be repeated after the end of his career, landing the football star behind bars. According to the official version, Ronaldinho chose PSG because his brother insisted on it, considering Paris the ideal transit point for a transfer to a top club. Not spoiled by oil money, Paris Saint-Germain seized the opportunity, acquiring a unique talent for only €5 million. In Paris, they hoped Ronnie would become the new Rai, the club's legend who shone in the mid-90s. Ronaldinho turned out to be cooler than Rai, but not for PSG. The Brazilian is grateful to Paris and the French Championship for comfortably adapting to European standards. He found an ideal mentor in the team, JJ Okocha, a player with a similar philosophy and technical potential. By the way, PSG bought the Nigerian 3 seasons earlier, paying him 3 times more than Ronnie. Often, because of Okocha, Ronaldinho started the match on the bench. The reward for patience was recognition at the end of the season in Japan and Korea, where the World Cup took place. The Brazilians needed mental toughness. A year before the start of the World Cup, the team experienced a difficult period, for coaches were changed in 9 months. Numerous problems led to Brazil losing its usual status as a favorite before the World Cup. Only a miracle could give hope for another final, but miracles happen if the attack is led by 3 great magicians, Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Ronaldinho, who scored 15 goals together. Brazil won all matches, obtaining the coveted status of pentacampeões. Ronaldinho adorned the tournament with another masterpiece. From a long free kick, he lobbed the ball over David Seaman's head.
Takes and David Seaman's caught off his line, and Brazil take the lead.
The quarter-final against England was memorable for Ronnie for the characteristic goal and an unusual removal. The red light was a signal. Few could imagine that the heir to Pelé scored his last goal in the World Cups. Ronaldinho won his first major trophies with the national team. The move to PSG did not bring him titles. Personal statistics confirmed that Paris was just a springboard. 17 goals and 14 assists in 55 championship matches. However, numbers do not speak the language of magic. Wherever Ronnie played, when he left, no one talked about the number of goals and titles. Everyone remembered his beautiful game. Before moving to Barcelona, the Brazilian scored the season's best goal in League One, aesthetically carrying the ball from the center of the field through half of the opponent's team. Numbers begin to understand magic when it comes to money, having bought the Brazilian for €5 million. 2 seasons later, PSG sold him 6 times more expensive. The transfer to Barcelona might only have happened with a coincidence and David Beckham. Running for the presidency of Barcelona for the first time, Joan Laporta promised to acquire a star, and Ronaldinho was on the list, but he was not a priority. After a categorical refusal from Thierry Henry, the Blaugrana entered into negotiations with Beckham, which ended unsuccessfully. The Englishman moved to Real. Ronaldinho's transfer looked like a fire option, but in the end, it became one of the best acquisitions in the history of Barca. He marked the era of significant victories. This is what the main heroes of the golden period, Xavi and Messi, think. They stated that the turning point for the Catalan club was the purchase of Ronaldinho. The Brazilian smile helped Camp Nou forget about troubled times. At the time of Ronnie's arrival, Barcelona had not won the league for 4 years and slipped to 6th place. In the next 3 seasons, the club won gold twice and conquered the Champions League for the first time in 14 years. Ronaldinho was not just a constructor of victories, he gave them an incredible charm. Discussing the transfers of Beckham and Ronaldinho, one of Real Madrid's directors said, "Ronaldinho's face cannot be sold, but everyone wants to do business with Beckham." For football, this is a controversial statement. If there is such a thing as sexy football, as Ruud Gullit said, Ronaldinho was its primary creator. The Brazilian's game always hid the beauty of unpredictability, regularly making the impossible possible. Receiving the ball, Ronaldinho captivated those around him with his freedom. No one knew what would happen the next second, but everyone wanted to see it.
Venga Ronaldinho, se marcha Ronaldinho, continúa Ronaldinho, Ronaldinho! ¡Golazo de Ronaldinho! Impresionante!
In the 2005 to 2006 season, he made Ronaldinho a hostage of his mastery. Everyone who saw his game now believes that the Brazilian did not fully realize his potential. However, several such campaigns could have turned his ego into the king of football. In 45 matches, he scored 26 goals and made 23 assists, but statistics will always be half the story. It cannot describe what Ronnie created on the field. His teammate Philip Cocu tried to do this. The speed of his movement and thinking was incredible. In a second, he could touch the ball 4 times. If I tried something similar, I would break my legs. Without becoming the best, Ronaldinho entered the list of the greats. In November 2005, Santiago Bernabéu exploded with applause for the Barcelona player. This happened for the second time in history. The first match, when the audience was brought to their feet by Diego Maradona, the second was Ronaldinho. Barca thrashed Real in El Clásico with a score of 3-0, and the Brazilian scored 2 magnificent goals, repeatedly destroying opponents on the left flank of the attack.
Ronaldinho! 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 What a goal!
"I will never forget this," the hero of the evening tearfully said after the game. But even more fabulous memories are associated with Camp Nou. The Brazilian turned into a legend for this stadium, alongside Cruyff, Maradona, and Messi. He was an excellent teacher for Leo, but the golden era outlived its founder. In Pep Guardiola's legendary team, there was only room for one free creator. It was Lionel Messi. It is generally believed that footballers peak at the age of 28. Ronaldinho's unconventional signature also played a role here. On the contrary, his decline began. Ronnie left Barcelona in a disassembled state. He missed half of the last season due to injury. It seemed that Milan could be an excellent place to reboot his career, but the timing was unfortunate. Carlo Ancelotti's great team missed the period of significant victories. The coach discussed Ronaldinho's problems in Italy. His decline did not surprise me. The skill was not doubted, but the physical condition was challenging. It wasn't so much injuries as the attitude towards recovery after them. The Brazilian lost balance. He preferred entertainment outside the field to fun on it. Without physical sharpness, the aura of magic suffered irreparable losses. The only motivation was the World Cup having the status of the best footballer on the planet. Ronaldinho performed poorly at the Mundial in Germany. Therefore, 4 years later, he intended to take revenge. He did everything he could to get people talking about him again. The Brazilian became the best assistant in Serie A, giving 15 assists, and also added 12 goals. However, the coach of the Brazil national team was Dunga. It is unknown whether the coach remembered those feints with which the young Ronnie humiliated him, but Ronaldinho was not included in the World Cup squad. In the end, everyone lost. Pragmatic Brazil was again knocked out in the quarterfinals, and football experienced the end of a beautiful era. Ronaldinho's legendary performances remained in the past. Leaving Italy, the Brazilian formally won Serie A, having played in the championship in 11 matches and not scoring a single goal. You can't win without having fun. Leaving the European radars, the footballer missed his former greatness, wandering through American clubs. Over 5 seasons, he changed 4 teams. Ronaldinho did not calm down even after the end of his career and started to get into unpleasant stories. In 2019, the Brazilian authorities, based on accusations of tax evasion, seized 57 properties belonging to the footballer. A year later, Ronaldinho completely loses his freedom, and it happens in a neighboring country. The Brazilian crossed the Paraguayan border on a fake passport. The feints ended, and Ronnie was sentenced to 6 months of imprisonment. However, he spent only 32 days behind bars, serving the rest of the term under house arrest. While in custody, the star footballer participated in a prison futsal tournament. As before, the ball makes him accessible, allowing him to give joy to people. And if a smile prolongs life, you can watch Ronaldinho's game forever. This is how football should be.